Welcome to the next in our series of sneak previews featuring Please Go Away Vacations special tours that are scheduled for 2021. We're going to be reviewing some of the things that you will do on the Leaves, Lighthouses, and Lobsters tour, scheduled for October the 16th through the 23rd of 2021. I'd like you to pay particular attention to the pictures throughout this presentation, as is this one. This particular picture was taken by Judy Fox of Great Bend in 2019, one of the beautiful parks with the foliage that is normally experienced on this tour. She took this as not a professional photographer, but what a beautiful picture that represents very well all the sights and things that you'll be doing. I might also mention that this was Judy and her husband Earl's third time to do this particular trip. Also with them on the tour was a couple from Olathe who were doing this trip for their fourth time. He is an amateur photographer, and as you go through the slides on this presentation, watch because the majority of these were taken either by Larry and Marilyn or by other tour members while on the tour. It's not professional pictures, it's what you truly are going to see and view throughout. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Larry. He and Marilyn created this tour over 20 years ago, and nobody knows this tour inside and out more than Larry. So Larry, share your excitement and all the beauty of the area with us, if you would, please.
Paul, I'd be delighted to, and honestly, I've got to admit to a love affair. This is a love affair, this tour. It's one that the title, Leaves, Lighthouses, and Lobsters, are exactly what you see. The title depicts exactly what is experienced. As Paul indicated, it's the granddaddy of our fall tours. Marilyn and I created this well over 20 years ago, and for every year since that time, except this year, we have operated this tour with very success and with the repetitive attendance of a number of travelers, as Paula alluded to in her opening remarks. So we're going to take you in the next few minutes on a sneak preview of just some of the things you can see and do, and we already have reservations on this tour, so it always sells out quickly. We would urge you to ask questions, and if it interests you, don't wait. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but right now, Paula, let's go off and take this sneak preview of behind the scenes of what is waiting for us in Maine. This is a Motor Coach Plus tour. So it's a feature travel experience, and by feature, this is a Please Go Away Vacations term. It's something that we have designed and added features to that will make it unlike anything you can find anywhere else. There's no other program exactly like this. It's one of a kind. And the Motor Coach Plus aspect is also a title created by Please Go Away Vacations, because unlike the motor coach company that spans 2, 3, 4 long days, bottom beating miles on the highway, getting to a destination before they ever begin what they really want to see, and then have to do that same miserable trip of 3 or 4 days at the conclusion of the tour, we fly to the destination and have a private charter motor coach waiting for us that's just used by our select group, and that is what a Motor Coach Plus is. It's with us. We stay all at one time. This is also known as a classic tour because we stay in one place the entire time, and we'll show you and tell you a bit more about that as we get into this. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, you are invited to compare. We want you to compare, and I will guarantee you will not find the same type of travel experience available anywhere else. It is our most popular fall tour, and here's a picture of the type of motor coach that we have waiting for us. In fact, this is a picture of a motor coach we have actually used on this tour in the past. It's our private coach for the entire week. It's only our tour people on it, and so we can go when and where we want to go and when we want to do it. It's a marvelous way to travel and then return each evening to our waiting accommodations at a central location. And speaking of those accommodations that wait each night for us when we are in Bar Harbor, Maine, is the Bar Harbor Inn that you see here. It's the famous inn. It's the most popular inn in all of Bar Harbor. It's situated right on the water, as you see here, and every one of our rooms have private balconies looking out over the water, which is known as Frenchman Bay. Now, that in and of itself is a dramatic experience. It lends itself to wonderful sunrises. I can assure you that each morning you will be awakened to beautiful sunrises and also the small putt-putt sounds of lobster boats as they are going out to set their traps and begin their daily lobstering. The balconies that I referred to are like what you see here, comfortable chairs where you can just sit back and relax. And in addition to the small putt-putt boats of the lobsters, huge ocean liners are coming in here, and they are arriving as the little boats are going out, and then in the evening it just reverses. So unlike anything that we have here in the Midwest. And it's accompanied by the fact that tidal changes are tremendous. We are very near the Bay of Fundy, which has the largest tidal change of anywhere in the world. And so it's all that type of thing that you can sit back and relax and just immerse yourself in the wonderful surroundings that are everywhere around you. This is an example of the well-appointed accommodations that you will enjoy. You can see here that you go out on a private balcony. The beds and mattresses are of superior quality. And in fact, I personally had some back challenges several years ago, and I contacted this hotel to ask them the type of mattress they had that we'd slept on for 20 some years because it was so comfortable and just marvelous night's sleep. It's truly ambiance in a true New England inn that you have waiting for you, and you will go to sleep to lapping waves and awaken to beautiful sunrises like this. This was taken by myself from our balcony, looking out over what is called Porcupine Island, which is just shortly offshore, just maybe 100 yards. And it's called Porcupine Island because it looks like the silhouette of a porcupine as the animal would be on the ground. Amazing natural wonders and beauties await. A bountiful breakfast is included each morning in the breakfast room, which is literally 50 feet from the water that encompasses Frenchman's Bay. I can assure you that a regular activity that I practice almost every morning after enjoying a very nice breakfast is to have a second cup of coffee and to go out and just simply watch the waves and the water and the activities. It's amazing and needs to be seen and experienced to enjoy and appreciate. Another dining experience, which is a feature that we add, we always try to include local taste sensations and things of this nature. And there is a facility known as Jordan's Pond House that serves and is famous for its popovers and tea. We have an included dining experience. We take our group there. We have popovers and tea, and it looks out over Jordan's Pond, which is actually a freshwater lake on Mount Desert Isle, where Bar Harbor is located, and it's a true Maine experience. You are served hot popovers, normally strawberry jam, clotted butter, tea of your choice. We normally order blueberry tea because blueberries are such a main part of the economy of Maine, and it just adds to the experiences that are awaiting on this itinerary. I mentioned Jordan's Pond. This is in Acadia National Park. Acadia is the second most visited national park in the United States. It's filled with natural beauty. In fact, the commentator Jack Perkins made a statement that has rung in my ears for years. And Acadia National Park is known not for what it is, but it is known for what it is not. You are in touch with nature. This is Jordan's Pond. You're looking at what are known as the bubbles in the background. We take you on a hike and a walk down here right beside this pond because just beyond this pond and a little bit to the left of this picture, which I took, is where we gain access to the famous carriage roads of Acadia National Park. The carriage roads, such as you see here in the bridge work, the road is actually on top of the bridge, were all made, some 54 miles in Acadia National Park, made by the private funds of John D. Rockefeller. And they have the most beautiful routes within the park to capture the natural beauty. We take a walk in the woods on a carriage road that's not very far, but it is filled with the sounds of nature, the odors of nature, the falling leaves of nature, leaves, lighthouses, and lobsters. Well, here's the leaves portion of it. It's just an amazing experience. Also, we mentioned lobsters, and we're going to experience lobsters many ways. Again, this is a picture I think Marilyn in fact, took this picture of one of our past passengers. We always include in the famous Bar Harbor Inn, in a private room high in the hotel overlooking the water, a whole lobster shore dinner. Now, it's called a shore dinner because it's the kind of dinner that originally could be fixed and prepared on shore because you could boil it in a bucket of water. Well, obviously, it's not boiled in the bucket of water in this beautiful hotel in New England Inn, but you have a whole lobster, not just the tail, but the whole lobster. You have corn on the cob, clam chowder, steamers, clams, potatoes, wild Maine blueberry pie, etc. It's a great way to have your first exposure to the lobster aspect of leaves, lighthouses, and lobsters. Cadillac Mountain is the Atlantic seaboard's tallest mountain north of Rio de Janeiro. We go to the very top of it, and quite honestly, it's not very tall, 1,532 feet. But nevertheless, if you were to travel the entire Atlantic seaboard from Rio de Janeiro to this point, this would be the highest point on the Atlantic seaboard. It's on Mount Desert Isle, and it was named Mount Desert Isle by an explorer who named the island Ile de Mont Desert, the island of bald mountains, because you can see the bald granite tops of the mountains. And in the background, you can see Frenchman's Bay. And actually, you can see, among other islands that are easily visible from our private balconies, that Porcupine Island that I referred to. So it is a natural beauty. And another thing that we do is, as an option, not that we charge for, but if you want to go back with us and maybe be a little bit cold, we will take you to see America's earliest sunrise atop Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park. So we actually go to the top of the mountain twice. It's a marvelous experience and very close to our island residence of the Bar Harbor Inn in Bar Harbor. Lighthouses, leaves, lighthouses, and lobsters. We'll take you to the Maine Lighthouse Museum. There's only one state in the entire United States that has more lighthouses than Maine, and it is Michigan, because Michigan is confronted by 3 of the Great Lakes. But Maine in and of itself has over 4,000 miles of shoreline. If you count all the little inlets and things of this nature, it's all Rocky Mountain coast. You always hear about the Rocky Mountain coast of Maine. And lighthouses play a most important part. What you are seeing here are examples of the Fresnel lens, and that is what is placed within a lighthouse, and it is within a Fresnel lens that normally in the past a little wick that burned off whale or kerosene, whale oil or kerosene was lit and lighted the beam that cast itself out to sea. Now, of course, it's a very low wattage light bulb, but the prisms that you can see within the Fresnel lenses allow the light to be projected for miles into the distance. And the Fresnel lenses come in all different sizes, from 1 through 6, and the largest is large enough to accommodate a man standing upright inside. So it's an amazing exposure and a behind-the-scenes experience of the lighthouses aspect of Leaves Lighthouses and Lobsters. Again, another example of Leaves we take with our private bus. a trip to what Forbes magazine has named one of the 10 most beautiful cities in the United States. This is Camden, Maine. Looking at it from the hills atop Camden, Maine, it has its own harbor, and you can see the foliage, which is abundant throughout the area, again, adding to the title of Leaves uh, as a part of what is seen and experienced. Camden is where the movie of many years ago, Peyton Place, was filmed, and it has a Camden Harbor and Park, which was designed by the same architect, Olmsted, that designed Central Park in New York City. And also, you have the opportunity to stand here, you go down that walkway that's in front of you here. Off to the right is a waterfall that is gushing out from one of the main streets, from underneath one of the main streets of Camden. And then off to your left, you can see many other things. So moving right along then, let's take some more looks. One of the things that you can see if you turn to the left from that picture that just preceded this one is the statue of Edna St. Vincent Millay. Now, Edna St. Vincent Millay was a playwright, a poetess of renown. You can look her up, Edna St. Vincent Millay. Her home was Camden, and she has a famous poem that she wrote, and it goes something like this. I stood and looked and saw the hills. I turned another way and saw three ocean islands in a bay. That's a poor paraphrase of it, but nevertheless, this lady here is depicting Edna St. Vincent Millay looking out at those islands in the harbor of Camden, part of the history of Maine. Camden is also a major stop for my wife and the ladies of the trip because it has unique shopping opportunities, ranging all the way from magnificent sweatshirts, but also some really unusual things. This happens to be Marilyn, my wife's favorite shop in Camden, Maine. She took this picture once upon a tree. It's filled with nothing but wood products. And Marilyn is a collector of nativity sets, and her one of her prize sets within her collection of almost 100 different nativity sets from around the world is one that she got here at Once a Tree. We'll also expose you to the legend of the dancing leg. Uh, we won't tell you the entire legend right here, but suffice it to say that it deals with witchcraft, and it's in Bucksport's Maine. We go through Bucksport on our way down to Camden, and it has to deal with Jonathan Buck, who was the uh, creator of the town of Bucksport. He served as early judge, and I'll say, as part of a tantalizing portion, that he sentenced a witch to be hanged by the neck until dead. A lady that was supposed to be a witch. I won't tell you the rest of the story, but it is the legend of the dancing leg, and we take you behind the scenes to expose you to what that is. Also, on our way down to Camden, we go across Penobscot Narrows Bridge. Uh, this is at Bucksport, Maine. It is a magnificent cable stay construction bridge looking over the Penobscot River. Off to the right-hand side is a pulp mill. Manufacture of paper products is still very important. Lumbering is still very important in Maine. And also in this same area that you can see from this bridge as you cross it is something that you won't really think I'm saying correctly when I do, but you will be able to see Fort Knox from this location. And I'm sorry, it's not the Fort Knox in Kentucky. There's no gold here, but it was placed by the U.S. troops here as a protection against the British invaders that would be coming up the Penobscot River en route to the interior part of Mount Desert Isle and Maine itself. Fort Knox. Wild Maine blueberries, a part of the foliage of the area. Wild Maine blueberries are completely different than the larger store-bought berries that you often see, which grow on bushes. Wild Maine blueberries are much smaller, much sweeter, and they grow on vines or plants in the ground. One plant, in and of itself, can cover up to an acre of ground, and it is truly wild. There is no cultivation. It's just propagation, and there is a huge industry pertaining to wild Maine blueberries. In fact, we have arranged through Maryland's efforts over years past to have a professor from the University of Maine come down and make a private presentation just to our group on the impact wild Maine blueberries has upon the economy of Maine. And it is particularly appealing to the people here from the Midwest because although we are not associated with wild Maine blueberries, we either are associated with or know someone who is associated with agriculture, and this just shows a completely different form of agricultural pursuit that largely and dramatically affects the economy of Maine. Wild Maine blueberries. The Lulu Lobster Boat. Uh, the Lulu Lobster Boat is a 2-hour seminar at sea. It takes you out in Frenchman's Bay. It actually shows lobster traps being pulled. You learn about lobstering. You learn why that is aquaculture as opposed to agriculture. Aqua, obviously Latin for water, aquaculture, and there will be hands-on presenters here explaining in detail one of Maine's major industries. You'll learn more than you might ever want to know about lobsters, but I must tell you that this special inclusion that was created when Marilyn placed a call to the owner of the company 20 some years ago while she was doing her shopping. She, the lady in Maine, her shopping at a grocery store when their boat would accommodate only 6 people, and we were their first group that they ever took out. Now it is featured with cruise ships and things of this nature, featured nationally on television, internationally on television, a major, major attraction and a wonderful experience that many people consider the highlight of their trip. It certainly brings to life the lobsters aspect of this tour. We also strive to take you behind the scenes and to meet the locals. We call them Mainers, and they're hardworking people. They tell you just exactly the way it is, and I just love it. And we take you to local experiences. Locals experience that we do is we take you to Getty's restaurant that you see here. You can see Frenchman's Bay in the background, and our hotel, the Bar Harbor Inn, is just a block off to the right, so you can see how close and everything is and easy to get to. But we take you to Getty's, and I must say that Getty's is only one of 2 restaurants that stays open all year long because the rest of the restaurants are basically supported by tourists. And obviously, tourists are a part of Getty's business during the tourist season, but they also serve the locals during the season. And one of the reasons that we take you to Getty's to have you have a local experience is we will introduce you to bubbling blueberries and hubcaps that you see here. You will be our guests to enjoy this. I will tell you that the ale on the left-hand side is blueberry ale, and when you put wild Maine blueberries in the ale, the blueberries will go up and down just like the old lava lamps used to do that were so popular in the 1950s. So that's a local experience. It's behind the scenes experience. People like this. As I say, you will be our guests for this. It's probably not the best meal or food that you've ever had in your life, but it is an experience that you will never forget, part of the local atmosphere and ambiance of Leaves, Lighthouses, and Lobsters. Wild Maine blueberries also are part of the leaves aspect of this tour because I showed you in the earlier picture of wild Maine blueberries a picture when they were ready for cultivation. The leaves were green on the vines, and the vines only maybe attain a height of 8 to 10 inches. But once the harvest is over and the fall weather moves in, the wild Maine blueberry fields, they call them barrens, that stretch on just toward the horizon in no particular manner, take on a color like this. The red is because of the leaves of the vines turning red from their traditional loss of green chlorophyll. So this is a wild Maine blueberry barren. It's after harvest and in fall collars, and again is part of the leaves aspect of this travel experience. Another aspect of taking you behind the scenes and exposing you to the real Mainer and what the real economy is a stop at our friends' building here called Lynch Hill Farms. It's owned by Bob Hammond and his family. Bob Hammond and his family are personal friends of Marilyn and myself that we've cultivated over the years. And they allow us to stop there, and they have a little outlet there. But we also learn here and see cranberry bogs because they harvest cranberries, such as you see here. And this is the type of cranberry harvest that you sometimes see because they call this a wet harvest, and they flood these bogs. Bogs are actually ponds, so to speak, that can be dry without water, but they also can be filled with water. A cranberry is much like the human heart. It has four chambers that allows the cranberry to float once it's beat off the cranberry bush, and it floats to the top of the water. Uh, this is what you normally see, but at the same time, and also probably done as often as the wet harvest, is the dry harvest, where they take a lawnmower type apparatus with a combine type reel on the front. They go through the bog. You can see that it's like a pond, but here without water, and they're actually beating the cranberries off the bushes themselves, and they will then harvest them by putting water in there, allowing them to float and go after the dry harvest aspect. Also, they sometimes don't use water because there's a collection device, sort of like a grass catcher on the back of a lawnmower, where they can accumulate and gather these cranberries and put them into the boxes, which are waiting with the little Land Rover in back. This is Bob Hammond. Uh, he is a true Mainer. He is filled with history. He's a personal friend. Last time I was there, they make their own wine. He gave me a bottle of wine to take along. We just really like each other because we both like to say things sort of the way they are, and we appreciate each other. He is no slouch. He's a farmer. He's well recognized. He is 8-time past president of the Maine Farm Bureau, but he allows us to stop. He goes out. Here we put a mic on him. That's our mic that we have on him. And we have him tell us about growing cranberries, selling cranberries. Also, he takes us over to a nearby blueberry barren, a wild Maine blueberry barren that he has. He also grows mushrooms. They make Christmas trees. It's just the ingenuity of a true cottage industry of Maine behind the scenes, and that's where we take you. We also take you into Canada, up on Campobello Island, and we go there to see the summer home of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They call these huge homes cottages, but this is where he plotted his progress toward the presidency of the United States. We ordinarily, depending upon the time that and busyness of the season, are able to go through the cottage itself. And there's a nearby museum known as the Edmund Muskie Museum that depicts Campobello Island and the history. This is the Visitor Center Museum right here. The cottage of Roosevelt that you just saw is off to the right behind this picture. But Campobello Island is known for many other things. It's right on the Bay of Fundy, and we take you out to this lighthouse because here we're seeing up close the lighthouse aspect of this trip. This is known as East Quoddy Lighthouse. It's on the Bay of Fundy, Campobello Island, and it is this Bay of Fundy that has the highest tidal changes in the world. And when you're there, you will see evidence of this. If the water is down at the time that we were there, the rocks lining this look like they have bathtub rings 50, 60, 70 feet off the bottom of the bathtub or the shore that is below there. Again, a proximity to the lighthouse aspect of this trip, Bay of Fundy, Campobello Island, Canada. Another lighthouse is West Quaddy Lighthouse. This is at Lubec, Maine. We walk right up to this lighthouse and are able to get close-up pictures of it. And one of the interesting things about this, when you walk up to this lighthouse and go right to the right-hand side of the house, which is depicted here, the lighthouse house itself, you will see that you are at the easternmost point of the United States. Here's a monument indicating that point, easternmost point in the USA, West Quaddy Head, Lubec, Maine. There's the lighthouse in the background. You're right there, and you will be able to say, I was there. Another part of taking you behind the scenes and having you exposed to the Mainers or the real people of Maine is Wendell Gilley. Now, Wendell is no longer alive, but Wendell was a plumber in the area of Mount Desert Isle, and he became, as a hobby and as a result of a hobby, a world-renowned wood carver. His eagles and things of this nature have even had their place in the White House. This is the Wendell P. Gilley Museum. We go, we learn about Wendell P. Gilley. We see a movie that he recorded prior to his death where they were cataloging his vast collection of wood carvings. And it's interesting because in true Mainer tradition, where they speak just exactly what they say, and remember, this is an area where the cottages of the rich and the famous, people came there, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, all of those kind of people had summer cottages there. Wendell said that when he was a plumber, he had to go through the back door of the cottages, but once he became a wood carver, they invited him in through the front door. I thought that said it all perfectly. A man that I would like to have met personally, from plumber to having carvings in the White House, Wendell P. Gilley. Now, this again is the picture that you saw that Paula was talking about, taken by Judy Fox. Judy and Earl are intrepid travelers. They wanted to go back, and Judy particularly wanted us to include once again this particular park, Etostue Gardens on Mount Desert Island. And again, this was taken by Judy. Most of the pictures that you've seen here are not professional pictures. They are taken by people who've been on the tour. It's what you can expect to see and what awaits for you on this experience, the granddaddy of all of our fall tours. Also, we have been able to arrange through private contact a private tour for just our group through Jackson Laboratory. Now, Jackson Laboratory is on Mount Desert Island. In fact, it's just about 3 miles from where our hotel is, but it employs Jackson Laboratory over 1,800 people. And they allow us to go inside, and it's a research laboratory. They have on record research scientists that have achieved Nobel Prize winning status, 7 from Jackson Laboratory, and they are dealing on all the diseases and researches on how to attack that which challenges us physically and mentally. And quite honestly, they right now are engaged strongly in the search for a COVID vaccine. It's something that you wouldn't expect. It's something that tour groups don't go to, but we do because of a private relationship we have with the personnel of Jackson Laboratory. They allow our group to come in and they conduct a private tour for us explaining this. Again, it's a highlight on the tour and something that normally would not be expected to be experienced, and we don't make a big deal of it until after the fact because it is so much more amazing for participants of our groups to experience after the fact than if we tried to explain it before the fact. Another example of cottage industry is this gentleman shown here on the right-hand side ringing a bell. That's our friend, our personal friend, Dick Fisher. He's a real Mainer. He looks just exactly like that. And if you go on to the internet and look up uh, brass bells, gifts in gift shops. The main gift shops throughout the United States, many of them will have U.S. bells. They are forged here. If you didn't know where this was, you wouldn't know that it existed because you'd drive right by it and never see it. Dick looks just like this. He's a true Mainer. We were there one time, and he said, "Larry, I've got to go. We've got people out on the rocks, and they're in trouble." And so they were a volunteer rescue team, and he's part of it. He had to go take them off the rocks. But they make these fantastic bells. Again, it's a highlight, and it's broadened in activity to where now their son is involved in fine woodworking in a separate building. Dick Fisher still makes his brass bells in nothing more than a double car garage. And the only reason we knew anything about Dick Fisher is because our friend at the Lulu Lobster Boat said, "Marilyn and Larry, you ought to check out Dick, introduce yourself, and see whether he'd let you come." And he does. He lets us explain, or he explains to us what he does as a true Mainer and as a cottage industry. So different, but behind the scenes of why this tour is so popular. L.L. Bean, obviously, is another famous name connected with Maine. And in the town of Ellsworth, which we have to go through as we leave the island of Mount Desert, where Bar Harbor is located, is the town of Ellsworth, Maine. And they have an outlet. L.L. Bean has an outlet there, and you either will like it or you won't like it. But I can assure you that we've had people insist that we stop there so they could do shopping, and they will do a private shopper with you where they'll take you around, get you the things you want. And it's a true success story that started with a failure, all done by L.L. Bean. But part of the story and part of the information you learn on this trip, how a gentleman who had nothing but failure when he first started out turned those failures into outstanding success. So that's been a quick overview, a sneak preview, if you will, of what's waiting for you with Leaves, Lighthouses, and Lobsters. I'd like to point out to you that we truly believe that travels are memories made and shared that are never forgotten, and I don't know of another trip available that will create more memories that you can share as they occur and with those friends and family when you return, and ones that you will never forget than what you can find on this particular feature travel experience, Leaves, Lighthouses, and Lobsters. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. Remember, we've been in business for over 54 years. Our business credo, and we're proud of the fact that we're in a small Kansas community. Our business credo is small town carrying worldwide since 1966. We've literally had the privilege of taking you, our friends, to all 7 continents of the world and upon all the oceans of the world. But at the same time, we want you to know that we are your full-time team of professional travel advisors. If you have questions, you can contact us by calling 800-362-9347 or emailing us at answers@travelpleasegoaway.com. You will always be promptly served by one of our full-time travel professionals, which incidentally we've kept on full salary during this COVID crisis to serve the many hundreds of people we had affected when their travel plans that they had made with us from 16 different states and 58 Kansas communities going to 6 different continents were disrupted when COVID-19 shut travel down. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Let me leave you with one thought. Please go away.